boxing, the opportunity to take a swing at history and achieve legendary status is what matters most. In 1952, the greatest middleweight the world has ever known, Sugar Ray Robinson, challenged for the light heavyweight title and failed. Now on June 10th, Bernard Hopkins will take his shot by moving up 2 weight classes, challenging for the light heavyweight title against the man who dethroned Roy Jones Jr.
You had 2 no-nonsense guys. They had to work hard to get where they're at, to get that recognition. And now they're fighting each other.
Bernard Hopkins' legacy is 20 consecutive middleweight title defenses, knockout wins against Felix Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya. If Bernard Hopkins is able to capture the light heavyweight title on the heels of what he's already accomplished in his career, those are the sort of things you write in a Hollywood script.
Hopkins would love to have that on his mantle, that he did something that Sugar Ray Robinson tried to do.
Bernard is in a situation where he's in uncharted territory. He's never had an opponent that had the kind of advantages over him physically that Antonio Tarver has in this fight.
The last time we saw Tarver, he was stamping himself as the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world.
Tarver's got a chance, and he is second knockout of Roy Jones.
Assuredly, Antonio Tarver stands on the cusp of being considered one of the great light heavyweight champions.
I am one of the best fighters in the world. Give me my credit.
I don't know what advantages Hopkins has. He don't have an age advantage. He doesn't have a height advantage. He doesn't have a reach advantage.
I'm a better fighter, plain and simple. I'm chasing history.
This fight is about weight, pure and simple.
Push on you, push.
Regardless of how you want to look at it. One guy coming up, one guy trying to come down. What's harder?
I gathered up my troops, he's gathered up his, and it's going to be war.
Vero Beach, Florida, April 28, 2006. Antonio Tarver, together with trainer Buddy McGirt and little-known strength and conditioning coach Dudley Pierce, open training camp.
It's just us 3, man. I mean, it's no major entourage. It's not 20 other people hanging on telling me how great I am. And, you know, this is how we like to do it.
We've been in camp 3 weeks already, and a lot of people are like surprised by that. But, you know, we're not. We usually get 2 solid months in. But I got Dudley down early because I knew my work would be hard. But, you know, that's my responsibility. As a champion, I got to get it done.
Tarver's dominance of the light heavyweight division began with a memorable trilogy with Roy Jones Jr. After a controversial Jones decision in the first fight, Antonio came back with a vengeance and knocked out Roy in dramatic fashion.
Down goes Jones on a hard left hand, and that is the most that Roy Jones has ever been hurt.
On this night, legacies would be on the line.
On the 30th anniversary of the Thrilla in Manila, Antonio Tarver and Roy Jones complete their trilogy.
I showed the world that I was a better fighter.
Roy fought the way I thought he would. That he'd fight very defensive, try to set Tarver up, try to lure him into something. I told Antonio, you got to jump on him right away and take the play from him. And he did.
Tarver gets Jones into a corner, hits him with 2 big left hands.
I think they went through that whole training camp determined not to get hit with the left. I mean, because the guy just never wanted to even engage.
Tarver beat his ass. I mean, simple as that. Tarver took it right to Roy. Roy Jones didn't want to get knocked out. Tarver knew it. Tarver had him hurt several times in the fight, clearly in the 11th round when he almost knocked him out.
Tarver's got a chance, and he is second knockout of Roy Jones.
If I would have got over anxious, you know, and got careless, you know, who knows what would have happened. And I think that's what they was trying to bait me into doing.
It was almost as if he and Buddy McGirt expected Roy to fight the way Roy fought. So they didn't seem surprised by anything that Roy did.
And still universally recognized the light heavyweight champion of the world, Antonio Magic Man Tarver.
In spite of the overwhelming victory, many believed Antonio had not given his best performance and stamina questions persisted.
Tarver, he's totally shot. I mean, he can't even get his balance down enough to land 2 solid blows.
Most people, I think, would agree that Antonio didn't fight his best fight that night, that he was tentative, that he was considerably less intense than he had been in knocking Jones out in the second round of their second fight. And indeed, when he got Jones in trouble in the 11th round, he seemed to run out of gas instantly and couldn't get him out of there at a moment when most of us at ringside probably thought that Antonio was going to knock Roy out again.
New Orleans, Louisiana, a rebuilding city and the site of Bernard Hopkins' training camp. To gain the weight necessary to go up 2 weight divisions from 160 to 175 pounds, Hopkins has hired fitness guru Mackie Shilstone.
All right, one time around, follow me. Under 152 heart rate, we're going to run our run circuit, the gauntlet, okay? Be prepared and understand how to work under fatigue situations. You ready?
Sure. Mackie Shilstone is this training guru who from time to time shows up with a fighter and who supposedly knows how to build up fighters who are moving up significantly in weight so that they add strength while maintaining their quickness in the smaller weight division.
As a middleweight, Bernard Hopkins dominated his division for a decade, making a record 20 defenses of his title. But he lost his undisputed middleweight crown to 24-year-old Olympian Jermaine Taylor in a controversial decision.
He pulled it off. He pulled it off, and the long reign of Bernard Hopkins is over.
I personally scored that fight a draw. A lot of guys thought that Hopkins clearly won that fight.
It never hurt me. He accomplished standing on his feet and surviving 12 rounds, and you'll get the fight.
On December 3, 2005, Hopkins sought to avenge his loss.
Given the fact that he lost the first fight, you would expect him to be a lot more aggressive.
Right hand landed for Taylor. And another one. His 2 best punches in a while.
But basically, he fought the same fight as he did the first fight.
Once upon a time, Hopkins was a lion who chased down his prey. Now he's an old lion who waits in the weeds and hopes something comes by.
Bernard felt like he didn't really have to prove anything because he won the first fight, so he just had to go out and put the foot on the gas pedal a little bit more.
Is it the future or the past? Is it youth or age?
And still, undisputed middleweight champion of the world, Jermaine Bad Intentions Taylor.
There is a school of thought within the sport, and certainly within Bernard Hopkins' camp, that he deserved to get the decision in both fights. He didn't get the decision in either fight.
The people have spoken who their champion is, and that's who I am, the people's champion.
I told my mother before she passed that I won't fight past 40.
Well, he's been telling us for the last couple of years that he wasn't going to fight beyond the age of 40. Told us that repeatedly, fight after fight after fight. You know, I'm not going to do this because I promised my mother that I wasn't going to.
I ain't a superstitious guy, but I believe once I go back on my word, I always pay a big price.
He's trying to do something that's spectacular enough to wipe out the results against Taylor and to put Bernard Hopkins back up onto that pedestal where he saw himself before the Taylor fights and where clearly he still sees himself, whether boxing fans do or not.
You have a guy in Hopkins who's 41 years old. After you've promised your mom that you're not going to fight anymore, after you've been champion, after you've done things to give yourself a good way of life, now you're jumping up in weight with a guy much bigger. You'll wonder, why are you doing it? And that's a question that begs to be answered.
Fresh off of his victory over Roy Jones, Tarver looked for new challenges outside the ring.
I was driving from Tampa to Vero. I got a phone call, and it was Sylvester Stallone. And he told me then that, you know, he would like for me to accept the role as a co-star in Rocky Balboa. And I said, where do I sign up at? You know what I'm saying?
Anthony is a mixture. He's a real character. I mean, he's a comedian. He's a very, very interesting, soulful fella. He's a great family man. He's a player. He's a fighter. He's a well-rounded individual, you might say.
Hey, Marker.
The title of the movie is Rocky Balboa, but it is the 6th installment of Rocky. And I played the heavyweight champion of the world, Mason Dixon.
We spent 2 months choreographing the boxing scene, which will be the meat and the gravy of this movie.
It's never been done where you have had a reigning world champion playing a reigning world champion, and what he brings to it is a certain kind of grace and realism that has not been seen in the other ones. Here's what's great about Antonio. See how he sits down on a punch like a real pro as opposed to like an actor?
He wanted me to hit him. And he didn't want to do those old Rocky movies like when, you know, Apollo Creed jab, he was a foot away, but you see Rocky head snapping back. No, he wanted to eliminate that. We brought it in close, and we punched.
It's one thing to sit there and watch a fight and criticize, oh, why couldn't he do that? Why can't he get out of the way? What? Try it. It ain't so easy, okay? When you're in there with a pro, it's lightning fast, and you're just hoping for the best.
In order for Antonio to play the role of Mason Dixon, he had to gain a significant amount of weight.
This Mason Dixon guy is a heavyweight. He's a 200-plus pound fighter. And so that's not Antonio Tarver. Tarver is a light heavyweight. He's not a 200-pounder.
You know, I had to go out there and put on a few pounds to look like the monstrous heavyweight that they wanted me to look like.
He looked like he was probably close to 200 bills for the movie, you know, about 200, 205 pounds.
The mid-200s, that's the way I'm going to put it.
We've heard stories that he's 215 or to 220.
I believe he was 220, 222.
I thought that Sylvester Stallone had a premonition about the future. You know, I had planned on staying at heavyweight and just, you know, really filling out. And we were on our way.
I know he really wanted to fight Mike Tyson. That's what he was harping on a lot during the time he was filming the movie. And they were going back and forth a little bit.
We had offers on the table. We was in serious negotiation with Mike. Mike just didn't want to do it anymore.
So then he thought about fighting James Toney, but that's a tougher fight. That's a real heavyweight who wants to fight, is very talented. And then, you know, the Bernard Hopkins fight came along, and, hey, that's a smaller guy who's lost twice in a row. You know, that's probably a better choice to make.
Tarver's got to come down from whatever weight he's going to actually admit that he was, 220, 215, down to 175. You're talking about losing 30, 35, 40 pounds, whatever it is. You got to be careful how you do that. Because if you don't do it the right way, you're going to be weak. You're not going to be a 175-pound guy. You're going to weigh 175, but you're going to be weaker than that.
Bernard Hopkins faces the opposite challenge from Tarver. Gain weight while training to fight the best light heavyweight in the world.
Right, jab, 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 power shot. Jab, jab. Don't waste the energy. Push him away, push him away, push him away. Look, let me, look.
For Hopkins, the opportunity to achieve a feat his childhood hero was unable to accomplish has provided strong motivation.
Bernard still wants to put a punctuation mark on his legacy, and that is the challenge for the light heavyweight championship, something very few middleweights have ever been able to do. There have been some that have tried. The most famous case is Ray Robinson.
Sugar Ray Robinson had dominated the middleweight division, winning the belt, losing the belt, winning the belt, losing the belt, and he did all he could do and fought everybody in the middleweight division, and they was killers back then.
The real Sugar Man, the original, maybe the greatest fighter of all time, tried to capture the light heavyweight title and came very close with Joey Maxim.
The original fight date had been postponed due to torrential rain. By the time the fight took place, New York and Yankee Stadium were in the midst of a record heat wave.
It was 110 degrees. The referee, Ruby Goldstein, had to be carted out of the ring mid-fight and replaced.
Despite giving Maxim an 18-pound weight advantage, Robinson built up a seemingly insurmountable lead. But the heat proved to be too much for Robinson, and he quit on his stool before the start of the 14th round.
Ray retired after that fight, went to Europe, basically to engage in nightclub dancing.
I always admire a legend named Sugar Ray Robinson who fell short from attempting to become the lightweight champion. Now, that there is personal to me, or I would have took any other fight.
If Bernard Hopkins is able to capture the light heavyweight title on the heels of what he's already accomplished in his career and do so doing what his idol was unable to do, you know, those are the sort of things you write in a Hollywood script.
I spent practically my whole day either training or getting ready to train. We isolated. I'm focused. I'm here.
10.
You see what it is. It's me and Dudley. When I first met him, I met him with Buddy McGirt. He was working with
some fighters, and what I recognized was that this guy was different.
I don't like the knockout. I like going to 12 rounds. It excites me.
The fighters that he was working with, they didn't really appreciate his work.
The rest of the guys I was working with didn't do anything, so didn't want to, train, because they say I train too hard.
He's no nonsense type of guy, and this is the key.
I love it, and I love, someone listening, because it's hard and grueling right now, but it pays off in the ring.
He's very good at what he does, and he's very, very educated. He takes his job very, very serious.
We show up in the gym, that's buddy's time. But most of my work, most of my real intense, hard work, get done with this guy. You guys, the first guys that we let in here. This is like intricate, this real secretive type of shit right here, what y'all viewing. You know what I mean? We don't let people see this.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we get up at 5:45, and we do 6 to 10 miles at the beach.
He's not a guy on a bicycle. He's not a guy riding in the car. He's out there working with me, and that's great.
Sometimes Dudley gets carried away. Like Antonio will be 172, and Dudley's like, well, we're going to run 4 miles tomorrow. And Antonio's like, for what? And then Dudley's like, well, you got lactic acid built up, and you got, I'm like, yo, man, listen, let it build up. He ain't going to run that much.
This guy's at another level when it comes down to strength and conditioning, man. I have to really, truth be told, I got to protect myself from this guy. I mean, he'll kill me. That's what it boils down to. He'll kill me. He'll hurt me.
He gets so wrapped up in what we're doing, and he want to see it instantly. He want to see the finished product today. And I'm saying, Dudley, we got a month and a half, baby. Let's just slow it down a little bit. We'll get there.
This is the hardest part, training. The fights, it's icing on the cake.
We got to meet Buddy McGirt at 2.
Mason Dixon! This is not a job that when you leave here, it stays here when you're a fighter. You got to take it home with you every day. And think about it. As a trainer, you got to take it home with you. Because you're thinking of different things to do to keep your fighter on his toes, to keep it interesting to him so they don't get bored. You got 2 months, so you got to make it fun, but at the same time serious. So it's a lot of work, and a lot of people don't see that.
In addition to his responsibility as strength and conditioning coach, it's Dudley Pierce's job to monitor Antonio's diet.
He prepare all my meals. I mean, he makes sure we're eating what we're supposed to eat, and right now we've eliminated even chicken. It's totally turkey, and it's fruit and it's vegetables. And it's, no white, a lot of fish, and nothing made with white flour.
I'm hungry. I'm starving. You know what I'm saying? I get impatient. I have low tolerance for bull.
Sometimes he'll get moody, but then I'll give him yogurt or some Jell-O.
Oh man, I mean, there's some days, man, that he can smell. He thinks he smells food, and he flips out. He could be shadow boxing. He's like, "Who got food in the gym?" We be like, "Man, what the hell are you talking about, man? Nobody got no food in the gym."
The weight's not a problem at all. He'll be strong. He'll be strong.
Antonio's always had to lose weight when he came to camp, so it's nothing new.
I'll be on weight. I'll make weight. I'll be in great shape. I'll be in great condition.
I don't think the question is whether he makes the weight. The question is whether he's gone through training, fighting the scale rather than the opponent.
Well, Bernard loves to train. He's never out of shape. His body is immaculately kept. He does not have bad habits. He's a throwback to the days when fighters lived monk-like existences and deprived themselves of worldly pleasures year-round for the purpose of being ready to fight.
He doesn't ever really get heavier than 165 pounds, 166 pounds. This is a guy that is fighting at his natural weight when he gets down to 160. Now, when he's going to go up to light heavyweight to fight Antonio Tarver, he wants to do it the right way, not just eating to get the weight on. So what he did was take a page out of the book from guys like Michael Spinks and Roy Jones and hired Mackie Shilstone.
Okay, I'm trying to go to goal. I'm trying to... Okay, foul. Basketball, okay, that's foul. Because you're moving pick. Come on. I think what I really am more than anything is an investment banker. The athlete that comes to me is banking that their investment in me is correct.
He did it with Michael Spinks, went from light heavyweight, put on that muscle, went up to heavyweight, became the heavyweight champion of the world, beating Larry Holmes and doing it twice. Then he did it with Roy Jones Jr., which was a remarkable feat, the way he transformed Roy's body into, from a light heavyweight that was never a big light heavyweight into a very imposing, powerful heavyweight.
I've always admired Mackie when I first saw him on TV in '85 with Spinks. And I used to always watch that special over and over. I recorded it. I used to watch it over every day. I used to come from the gym and watch it every day. He had Spinks jumping on his boxes, doing certain things on the bleachers, doing sprints with a 30-second to 60-second recovery, and bust the sprint out again. It was great at the time, because back then in the 80s, you really didn't hear too much about that.
I'm in Mackie's world. And Mackie's world is about not only gaining weight, but being at a situation where you're still comfortable and you don't give up none of your missiles that made you successful prior to coming to Mackie.
Ready? And here.
He doesn't mind telling you he's the best, and he doesn't mind telling you that his fighter is going to be better prepared than he's ever been in any fight that he's ever fought.
Remember, I've worked with the best. I've worked with 3,000 pro athletes in every sport, including members of armed forces. See me? See me. Watch me. Look at mine. In the training, I am this man. I am the Cobra. The Cobra is Mr. Tarver. He's the Mongoose. The Mongoose is a smaller, outgunned, outmanned, outmaneuvered, and outweighed animal.
Much like the Tarver camp, Mackie Shilstone regulates Bernard's diet.
He was asking me about the weight. That's how we trying to keep it up,
We're eating chicken, fish, turkey, lean meats. We're eating fruits, vegetables, whole grains.
I got done training earlier today. I was 66 and a half. So I'm trying to, the battle is now, eat. Because a lot of times I don't have an appetite.
I know, because I've seen it, that Bernard will prevail.
Bernard is going to hit harder. He's going to be a little stronger. How strong? Antonio Tarver will answer that question for us.
As training for both camps comes to a close, one thing is certain. The countdown ends, and the fight begins.
You got two no-nonsense guys. They had to work hard to get where they're at. They had to battle promoters, battle whoever, to get that recognition. And now they're fighting each other.
I think Hopkins will be the more motivated fighter, the better prepared fighter, the fighter that goes into the ring thinking that his legacy is on the line.
A lot of people say, oh, Bernard's too small. And I don't believe in that. Bernard's old school, man. So it's not the size of the man in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the man.
He's challenging the best light heavyweight in the world. Is he still willing to stick his nose in there? Or does he just want to fight like a banker making safe investments in his last fight?
Tarver is coming from the movie world. He's thinking of himself in a different way now. He's distracted. Hopkins needs something to help him. A middleweight at 41, he needs something to help him, I believe, in his fight. He may have found it.
I've always been most motivated and most eager to prove people wrong when I'm the underdog.
I don't understand how he feels he's going to come in here and take what I have. I just don't understand it.
Tarver's got to make him work. And if possible, early in the fight, let him know, hey, you think it's easy at 175? There's a reason Ray Robinson didn't win this title.
I'll go on record as saying that when he steps in there with me, he'll be in there with the best fighter he's ever faced, bar none. And he's going to know that rather quickly.
When I go in that ring, I'll go in that ring knowing and having a clear understanding that it's life or death, period. There's no in between. There's no compromising. It is what it is. What side do you want to be on?
I'm the legend killer. So the legend of Bernard Hopkins will be put to bed on June 10th.